Congratulations, class of 2021.
On behalf of the Department of Human Services at Purdue University Global, congratulations and best wishes.
Congratulations, class of 2021. Good luck to all of you.
Good afternoon. I'm Frank Dooley, Chancellor of Purdue University Global, and during today's ceremony we're going to keep our mask on for the entire time unless you're one of the speakers so you can understand us better. So whether you're here in DC or participating from home, let me be the first to welcome you to the 10th commencement ceremony. I think we're all standing, but if not, please rise and welcome Ms. Chantel Horn, who will sing the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright bright stars through the perilous fights. Oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you, Chantel. That's just simply amazing. Wonderful. What a great way to start it. Would everyone please be seated? Chantel is graduating today with a bachelor's degree in psychology. I'd like to take a moment this afternoon to introduce our distinguished faculty, the dedicated members of our university administration, and the many dedicated members of Purdue Global staff who are volunteering to support today's celebration. Right, so after about 20 months, I am so excited to be here on this stage with you in this beautiful facility to celebrate our Purdue University graduates. We're grateful to provide a ceremony that brings us together no matter where we are around the globe, either virtually or here in Warner Theater. Graduates, it's quite remarkable. At today's ceremonies, you represent all 50 states, including DC, and around the world from Bermuda, Canada, Belgium, Germany, New Zealand. I love that we can remain close through this institution as we commemorate your accomplishments. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb and suggest, graduates, that while you are all truly amazing, you didn't get to this momentous day on your own. You leaned on family and friends for encouragement and support through your journey at Purdue Global. So let's just take a moment to thank your support system and show them your appreciation. All right, let's hear from a few of your biggest fans as well.
Congratulations to the Purdue Global graduates, class of 2021. You did it. Woo!
I'm Professor Tiffany Egan with the Human Services Department, letting you know that you're amazing and you did it. Congratulations, graduates. Go class of 2021.
Congratulations, graduates. You did it. Way to go. We are so proud of you.
Alrighty. All of us at Purdue Global are so proud of you. Now, we are honored that our Purdue Global student body includes over 4,800 active duty National Guard and Reserve military members serving around the globe. And 1,400 military family members and 2,800 veterans. That's over 9,000 of our students affiliated with the military. Would those of you in the audience today who is an active service member or a veteran, please stand so we can recognize you. thank you so much for your service. And while I'm at it, let me share with you why your class and the alma mater are so remarkable. In the last year, around the world, over 10,000 people graduated from Purdue Global. About half of you are the first from your family to attend college, and about 60% of you are also having, while you're going to college, a child or other dependent that you're caring for. And these numbers define who we are. They shape the classroom, and they're going to join you as you move into the workforce. Now, it is my distinct honor to introduce our commencement speaker, Christopher Fairbank. Christopher is a Purdue University Global alum, graduated magna cum laude with a Bachelor of Science in Healthcare Administration. If you turn to page 4 of the program, you can find more about Christopher and his bio. Join me in welcoming Christopher Fairbank.
Change is inevitable, and we all need to be ready and willing to be a part of that change and become successful and help us all become successful. So, a principle I'd like to teach today is very simple, and it is just 2 letters of the alphabet, and it is no. What does no mean? To a lot of us means no, that's the end, there's nowhere else to go. But let me change that for each of you today, or for each of us today. No is actually an opportunity that allows us to work harder and to strive for something better in our lives. Let no be the next thing for us to become successful. No, after all, is just a word. When I was younger, I was told no quite a bit until the age of 5 when I was adopted into the Fairbank family. Simple things that we take for granted as no. Another bowl of ice cream, no. No, you can't eat with the family because you're not part of us. No. But at 5 years old when I was adopted, I no longer started here. I no longer heard that word no. And every sentence did not start with no. But it became an opportunity. No became an opportunity and a word that I came to love and adore. No is something for us to grow from. It is for us to strive to do better and to become successful in our lives, no matter where we are, no matter how tall, no matter how short, no matter what color we are, no matter where we come from. No is an opportunity for growth for each and every single one of us. So with that, why not take no into our lives and take it in stride? Let's do it. Tell you a story. Back when I was younger, a little bit younger than this, I was a professional ballet dancer. Don't judge, that was 40 pounds ago. Now, when I was dancing ballet, I had a wonderful opportunity to dance with a lot of people and meet a lot of people. Well, I went to this audition to a company that I really wanted to be in, and I was so excited to be in this company. So I auditioned, and at the end of the audition, there were just a few of us standing there at the end of the audition that we were hoping we were going to get the job. And I was so excited and so pumped that I was going to have this opportunity. And as it came to be, the director looked at me and said, "Christopher, you are a beautiful dancer. You have a great body. You have great legs. Your feet are wonderful. Your jumps and your turns are just absolutely fantastic. You are exquisite. But there are 2 problems. 2 problems. Now, my dear friends, those are 2 problems that I could not change and I will never be able to change in my life, but took me a while to come to grips with and realize that it was okay. The first problem, at the end, he said to me, "Christopher, the first problem is you are too dark." Wow. I'm too dark, okay. The second problem, "Christopher, is you are too short." Okay. 2 things in my life that I can never change. Well, I had a conversation with my father that evening, and my father, being the man that he is, a man of wisdom and a man of very few words, just said to me very simply, "What are you going to do about it?" So today I start with that. My dear friends, graduates, what are you going to do about it? We have a whole world in front of us. The opportunity is there for the taking. We can do this. What are you going to do about it? So like was said, I'm a graduate of this wonderful university, this wonderful institution. I started my process in this and my journey while I was serving as a police officer. We'll talk about that in a second. But during that, I had several people say, "Why on earth would you want to go back to school? What is the point? Don't do it." What was the word I heard? No. What was I going to do about it? I was going to forge my way forward and do it anyway. Well, I started in March in the middle of the pandemic, or right at the beginning of the pandemic, and I pushed and I persevered and I worked my tail off, and I was able to graduate that same year in November after going through all of my classes. It was hard. There were long days, but no was an opportunity for growth and an opportunity for me to get better. As a police officer, I heard that word quite a bit, especially in the academy. My police sergeant told me all the time, Christopher, this is not the job for you. This is not the career for you. You cannot do this. You are simply just too nice. Well, with that, I got a nickname in the police department. My nickname was No Ticket Chris. That's okay. It didn't bother me one bit. Why did I get that nickname? Well, there was time and time again that I would pull people over for speeding, and time again that I would not give a ticket. Well, I pulled over a lady one day, and I was speaking to her, and I asked her, like, you may have been asked as well if you've ever been pulled over, heaven forbid. And the question is, why are you going so fast? And the response was the same, like we all give all the time when that happens, right? I don't know. That was her response as well. I don't know. Well, I didn't know either. Well, I took her information. I went back to my car. I came back up, and I said, well, this is your warning. Have a great day. As I was walking away, she was leaning out the window calling back to me, Officer Fairbank, Officer Fairbank. Yes, ma'am? Why did you not give me a ticket? Well, very simply put, I did not want to be a hypocrite. And I told her that. I said, I do not want to be a hypocrite and give you a ticket for speeding. Excuse me? I said, ma'am, I speed all the time. Hence came my nickname, No Ticket Chris. Didn't bother me one bit. That's okay. Now, my dear friends, what's next? What's next for each and every single one of you and each and every single one of us up here as well? What is next? I will tell you very simply, it's very easy, but what is next are unspeakable challenges and amounts of success and opportunity await each and every single one of you. Unspeakable challenges, but great success will come to each and every single one of you. If you but put your mind to it. Like I said, I went to this institution as well. There was one day I was doing my class trip and I jumped up to go use the restroom. And my beautiful identical twin girls decided they were going to do my schoolwork for me. I was in the middle of a paper. They decided they were going to help Dad. It was great. A page and a half of a bunch of gobbledygook, and it was fantastic. I came back to find them with four little hands on that keyboard all over the place. Well, I could have said, no, don't do that. I could have yelled, but no. There was no reprimands. There was nothing there. I just simply said, thank you for helping Daddy. And they smiled and gave me a hug and ran out of the room. Of course, my wife was terrified. Oh, no, he lost everything. It was okay. If you haven't found out the great trick, Control-Z gets rid of all of that, and you go back to where you started. It worked out perfectly. But it allowed me to see and allowed me to understand and realize that my children are learning from a young age that accomplishments can still happen no matter the age. No matter your circumstances, it can happen. Now, as we go back to that audition, I went back to that audition 2 weeks later. Christopher being Christopher, I ended up at the wrong audition and went to the same audition I had been to before, where the director had told me that I was too dark and too short. Well, at the end of the audition of this time, everything was great. I was excited. I was still left standing there, and he went through the same spiel as he did before. And he said, but Christopher, there's two problems. I already knew those two problems. He said, no, these are different problems. Okay. Well, this time, remember, 2 weeks prior, I was there. Well, this time, Christopher, well, yes, you're just too light. Now, hang on and wait for it. Christopher, you're too tall. Now, how did I grow that much in 2 weeks, and how did I get lighter in those 2 weeks? But I'm here to tell you right now that that was another no and another opportunity for me to grow, and I did end up getting with another company and had a great time and had a wonderful career as a ballet dancer, because there was finally a director that didn't care that I was beautifully amaretto and that I stood very, thank you. And that I stand so tall, towering over everybody at a whopping 5'7.5". The 7.5 comes with the shoes, don't tell anybody. Now, may I leave you with this? always, always, always look to the future. Do not dwell on the past, and do not dwell on the negative things that have happened in your life, because those negative things have brought you to where you are today. They will allow you to become successful and to become great in your own right. Focus on the positive and focus on the future that you each have going forward from here on out. You can do it, and you will become successful no matter what. Because there is only one person in this world that can tell you that you cannot do it. And to tell you that no is for you. And that person is you. Get out of your own way and stop telling yourself no. And if you do tell yourself no as an opportunity for you to become successful. Because you will become successful. My dear friends, may I leave you with this. Each and every single one of you will be the change that we all desire to see in this world. You are our future. You are our success and our success stories. Each of you, if you do not remember anything else I've said, remember this. What are you going to do about it? And no is an opportunity for growth and for change. You are a leader. You have integrity. And you will each be the change that we want to see in this world today. Congratulations, graduates, and may God bless you.
Thank you, Christopher. It's now time to highlight our graduates. Will the master's candidates please rise? Congratulations to these graduates who make up only 9% of our nation's population. Please be seated. Before COVID, we would have put a hood on the master graduates on the stage as a formal way to recognize this great accomplishment. For the ceremony today, to ensure everyone's health and safety, we asked the graduates to submit a video of themselves being hooded by a loved one to commemorate this special day. Incredible achievement by our master candidates. Congratulations to each of you. And you know, I bet the hooding is just as special when it's somebody you love. We're also proud to recognize the graduates have earned academic honors by achieving high cumulative grade point averages in their associate's or bachelor's program. They are noted with an asterisk next to their name in the program. Will the graduates who earn cum laude honors please rise? They're wearing white cords to recognize this achievement. Please rise. Thank you. Will the graduates who earned magna cum laude honors please rise? And they're wearing silver cords to recognize this achievement. Well done. Please be seated. And for our graduates who've demonstrated exemplary ability and discipline by earning a 4.0 GPA, our summa cum laude graduates, please rise and show off those gold cords. What an incredible accomplishment. A's the entire time you're with us. Congratulations. All right. So graduates, I want to ask you right now, let me hear you. How do you feel? It's simply so nice to be able to hear your cheers and see the celebration. And whether you're in the audience today or participating from home, show the world how proud you are by including the hashtag Purdue Global Proud when posting on social media. All right, it's now time for the main event, recognizing you. Candidates, please rise. I am honored to present you for graduation. You've been approved by the faculty for a master's, bachelor's, associate, or certificate, and your name appears on the official list of candidates. Congratulations. All right, for the rest of you, you see some starting to walk. We're going to go row by row so everyone else could sit down until it's your turn, and we'll come find you. All right? When you come to the stage, your name will be read, and I'm going to hand you your diploma cover. But in order to remain safe, we're not going to be shaking hands today. After you cross, then what we're going to do is take your picture, and then you cross the stage, return to your seat until your degree is formally conferred. Dr. Sarah Sander, Dean and Vice President for the College of Social and Behavioral Sciences, and Mr. Michael Lorenz, Vice President for Academic Operations and the Registrar, will introduce the Social and Behavioral Science and Professional Studies candidates. As the graduates' names are called, you may notice that some are not walking across the stage. These are our virtual graduates who are participating from home and hopefully walking across their living room. All right? And while I have a minute or two, I want you to know you're all part of the Purdue family and a Boilermaker for the long term. Purdue for Life is our alumni organization will help you stay connected to the over 575,000 graduates in the Purdue system. As we all like to say, hail Purdue Global and boiler up. Time you've been waiting for.
Randy Ketchum, U.S. Navy veteran, postgraduate certificate in applied behavior analysis. Adake Adebayo, Master of Science in Psychology. Denise Baker, Master of Science in Psychology. LaBelle Bangura, Master of Science in Psychology. Chriselle Baptiste, U.S. Navy veteran, Master of Science in Psychology. Michelle Barrow, U.S. Air Force veteran, Master of Science in Leah, Master of Science in Psychology. Megan Rossalot, postgraduate certificate in applied behavior analysis. Geeta Agarwal, Master of Science in Psychology. Loretta Anderson, Master of Science in Psychology. Courtney Bailey, U.S. Navy veteran, Master of Science in Psychology. Danielle Braunstein, Master of Science in Psychology. Destiny Brown, Master of Science in Psychology. Alana Billingsley, Master of Science in Psychology. Savia Brandy, Master of Science in Psychology. Brenda Brock, Master of Science in Psychology. Sherelle Brown, Master of Science in Psychology. Shanna Brown, Master of Science in Psychology. Samantha Burke, Master of Science in Psychology. Valerie Capalbo, Master of Science in Psychology. Louis Sirna, Master of Science in Psychology. Bert Davis, Master of Science in Psychology. Lachlan, Master of Science in Psychology. Joyce Daniels, Master of Science in Psychology. Demetrian Davis, Master of Science in Psychology. Safa Elzine, Master of Science in Psychology. Sarah Elspeth, Master of Science in Psychology. Mia Deckard, Master of Science in Psychology. Brittany Fox, Master of Science in Psychology. Caleb Exham, U.S. Air Force, Master of Science in Psychology. Amanda Fair, Master of Science in Psychology. Laura Fry, Master of Science in Psychology. Rayletta Garrison, U.S. Army, Master of Science in Psychology. Liberty Getchell, Master of Science in Psychology. Brianna Gullett, U.S. Army, Master of Science in Psychology. Tracy Foster, Master of Science in Psychology. Adriana Gautam, Master of Science in Psychology. Abigail Gleba, Master of Science in Psychology. Taylor Garganas, Master of Science in Psychology. Lilia Gutierrez, Master of Science in Psychology. Nancy Gutierrez, Master of Science in Psychology. Sandra Harris, Master of Science in Psychology. Ashley Heath, Master of Science in Psychology. Carol Ireton, Master of Science in Psychology. Renad Jaber, Master of Science in Psychology. Stephen Hendricks, Master of Science in Psychology. Alma Horta, U.S. Army veteran, Master of Science in Psychology. Carmen Hughes, Master of Science in Psychology. Jessica Jansens, Master of Science in Psychology. Victoria Jackson, Master of Science in Psychology. Maninderpal Jatu, Master of Science in Psychology. Magna Jerome, Master of Science in Psychology. Marquise Judd, Master of Science in Psychology. Chandra Keeley, Master of Science in Psychology. Joycelyn King, Master of Science in Psychology. Victoria Ladreda Guevara, Master of Science in Psychology. Shaylin Landry, Master of Science in Psychology. Paul Mason Leiby, Master of Science in Psychology. Chantel Lewis, Master of Science in Psychology. Nikisha Lue Juen, Master of Science in Psychology. Janiqua Lytle, Master of Science in Psychology. Kashira McKnight, U.S. Army, Master of Science in Psychology. Randy Ketchum, U.S. Navy veteran, postgraduate certificate in applied behavior analysis. Maria Mangual Diaz, Master of Science in Psychology. Oscar Martinez, Master of Science in Psychology. Carrie Marks, Master of Science in Psychology. Kaylee McLean, Master of Science in Psychology. Adike Adebayo, Master of Science in Psychology. Tamara Mitchell, U.S. Army, Master of Science in Psychology. Alexander Metzger, Master of Science in Psychology. Julie Morgan, Master of Science in Psychology. Aaron Fuse, Master of Science in Psychology. Rachel Mullen, Master of Science in Psychology. Kim Montano Zeladon, Master of Science in Psychology. Briandra Myers, Master of Science in Psychology. Matt Murto, Master of Science in Psychology. Cassandra Naden, Master of Science in Psychology. April O'Rear, Master of Science in Psychology. Natalie Over, Master of Science in Psychology. Tisha Olbert, Master of Science in Psychology. Carletta Pounds, Master of Science in Psychology. Kate Page, Master of Science in Psychology. Aurelio Paredes, Master of Science in Psychology. Schubert Pereira, Master of Science in Psychology. Carolyn Perez, Master of Science in Psychology. Paige Roberts, Master of Science in Psychology. Kenesha Singleton Nelson, Master of Science in Psychology. Chantel Pereira, Master of Science in Psychology. Joshua Porter, Master of Science in Psychology. Jordan Pulima, Master of Science in Psychology. Anya Pullitt, Master of Science in Psychology. Jeffrey Shropshire, Master of Science in Psychology. Heather Schillinger, Master of Science in Psychology. Mary Parker, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Taylor Rivers, Master of Science in Psychology. Laurel Savelli, Master of Science in Psychology. Tamika Sims, Master of Science in Psychology. Catherine Stevens, Master of Science in Psychology. Akila Sundaram, Master of Science in Psychology. Nakisha Louise Juen, Master of Science in Psychology. Lola Stewart, Master of Science in Psychology. Ben Sutter, Master of Science in Psychology. Dawn Taylor, Master of Science in Psychology. Angela Tennant, Master of Science in Psychology. Jasmine Upshur, U.S. Marines veteran, Master of Science in Psychology. Shaleka Sutton, Master of Science in Psychology. Rokata Tate, Master of Science in Psychology. Stephen Willett, Master of Science in Psychology. Monica Addison, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Marcia Allen, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Sarah Ares, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Robert Young, U.S. Army, Master of Science in Psychology. Jennifer Altamirano, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Cecilia Zavala Aravelo, Master of Science in Psychology. Teresa Brown, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Lisa Bird, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Crystal Baker, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Catherine Ashley, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Jesse Bowman, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Allison Carter, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Margaret Beatty, U.S. Army, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Jasmine Boyer, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Jesse Bowman, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Bernard Britt, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Carol Cruz, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. April Arrear, Master of Science in Psychology. Kanisha Causey, U.S. Army veteran, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Courtney Chapman, Psychology. Chantel Horn, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Allison Davis, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Kyle Sikora, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Olivia De Lemos, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Yeah. Tiara Gordon, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Brittany Jones, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Shandy Ellis, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Bertizia Favors, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Joe Felker, U.S. Army veteran, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Amberly Guerin, U.S. Army veteran, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Shannon Hernandez, U.S. Army, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Kelly Gutierrez, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Shannon Harvey, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Sharon Hernandez, U.S. Army, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Amanda Hilliker, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Vanessa Height, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Christy Enan, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Gail Hines, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Amy Hollis, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Sarah Hughes, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Tasha Kelly, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Nicole Lauder, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Tony Lynch, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Deborah Leach, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Tabitha Lindahl, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Mighty Martin, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Helen Matu, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Leanne McGrath, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Ariana McNamee, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Patrick McLahone, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Alina McLaren, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Amy Miner, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Danielle Morant, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Shannon Miller, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Wallace Moody, U.S. Army, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Emma Morgan, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Amanda Myers, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Brad Nash, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Brianna Nicholson, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Chloe Moore, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Turi Nichols, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Heather Noblet, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. April Overton, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Vanessa Partak, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Tamika Perry, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Michelle O'Neill, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Yashiris Peralta Lendoff, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Jordan Rayburn, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Rhonda Ressler, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Eula Riggins, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Tara Robinson, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Alicia Quickle, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Shaquana Shambry, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Courtney Rockwood, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Nathan Russell, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Akil Sawhney, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Lena Shank Foley, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Shatara Smith, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Keisha Spruill, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Bonnie Schillingberg, Bachelor of Psychology. Roger Stewart, U.S. Bachelor of Science in Psychology. John Tate, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Samantha Travis, Science and Psychology. Elisita Torres Ayala, Bachelor of Science and Psychology. Robin Williams, U.S. Army veteran, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Tamika Watkins, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Alicia Welch, U.S. Navy veteran, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Sharon Hager, Graduate Certificate in Industrial Organizational Psychology. Khadijah Mara, Applied Behavior Analysis, Post-Baccalaureate Certificate. Amy Wicker, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Robin Williams, U.S. Army veteran, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. John Alamir, U.S. Air Force, Master of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. James Baugh, Master of Science in Homeland Security and Emergency Management. Deborah Beckstrom, Master of Science in Homeland Security and Emergency Management. Nancy Moretti, Graduate Certificate in Industrial Organizational Psychology. Caitlin Davidson, Master of Science in Homeland Security and Emergency Management. Janique Bryan, Master of Science in Homeland Security and Emergency Management. Elizabeth Ellis, Master of Science in Homeland Security and Emergency Management. Ashley Eager, Master of Science. Rudy Leonard, U.S. Army veteran, Master of Science in Homeland Security and Emergency Management. Chanel Mason, Master of Science in Homeland Emergency Management. Michaela Morrison, Master of Science in Homeland Security and Emergency Management. Abasana Raja, Master of Science in Criminal Justice. Sakhtar Van, U.S. Air Force veteran, Master of Science in Homeland Security and Emergency Management. Sierra Hennessy, Master of Science in Homeland Security and Emergency Management. Joshua King, U.S. Army, Master of Science in Homeland Security and Emergency Management. Veronica Leal, Master of Science in Homeland Security and Emergency Management. Malcolm Mayfield, Master of Science in Homeland Security and Emergency Management. Caitlin Barnhart, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Ariel Benjamin Gibson, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Kendra Platt, Master of Science in Criminal Justice. Chastity Pollard, U.S. Army veteran, Master of Science in Homeland Security and Emergency Management. Ed Perog, Master of Science in Homeland Security and Emergency Management. Jeremy Rager, Master of Science in Homeland Security and Emergency Management. Wayne Briscoe, U.S. Navy veteran, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Darius Butler, U.S. Air Force, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Barney Sacchi, Master of Science in Criminal Justice. Brent Schwabel, Master of Science in Criminal Justice. Saktir Van, U.S. Air Force veteran, Master of Science in Homeland Security and Emergency Management. Kenneth Young, U.S. Army, Master of Science in Criminal Justice. Yesenia Cardenas, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Charlene Carmichael, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Christy Baldison, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Michaela Barnett, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Michael Celeberti, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Stacy Centeo, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Shanae Carson, U.S. Army, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Kayla De Jesus, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Megan Demio, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Quantel Deaton, Bachelor of Science in Corrections. India Ford, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Rami Echeverria, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Tamla Ellis, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Brittany Fears, U.S. Army veteran, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Joseph Graziano, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Eileen Gutierrez, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Gabrielle Ferguson, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. LaShara Garner, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Sarah Garner, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Rebecca Goldrick, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Bethany Hill, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Brandy Hunt, U.S. Air Force, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Yolanda Gomez, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Lanika Griffin, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Kamiko James, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Kevin Jones, Bachelor of Science in Corrections. Imperial Huggins, U.S. Army, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Marquita Jeffers, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Brian Junkaw, U.S. Army, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Zachary Kiernan, U.S. Air Force veteran, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Kimberly Longo, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Lindsay Jones, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Antoine Keys, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Marcus Lane, U.S. Army veteran, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Kashonda Banks, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Shelley Lyons, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Miguel Medina, U.S. Army veteran, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Gavin McNew, U.S. Marines veteran, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. James Mulligan, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Amber Mustin, U.S. Air Force veteran, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Everhard Nordman, U.S. Army, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Jacqueline Mejia, U.S. Marines, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Cami Ridgway, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Amy Paderlowski, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Jasmine Pittman Soto, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Andrew Kwan, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Jerry Rose, U.S. Army, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Milton Rowan III, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Jennifer Rauhorst, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Ashley Schmidt, Bachelor of Science in Justice. Kaylee Shouts, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Siona Singh, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Jay Smith, U.S. Army veteran, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Amanda Schenberger, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Joshua Tomes, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Anne-Marie Spencer, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Jordan Squire, U.S. Army, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Marquita Strickland, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Erica Summerall, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Joshua Turner, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Amanda Webb, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Jennifer Thompson, U.S. Army veteran, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. David Van Dyne, U.S. Marines, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Juan Villalobos Caballero, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Chad Weigman, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Gregory Wynn, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. John Wilburn, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Siani Harper, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Mary Anderson, Associate of Applied Science in Criminal Justice and Criminology. Denise Bradley, U.S. Navy, Associate of Applied Science in Criminal Justice. Lovey Carroll, Associate of Applied Science in Criminal Justice. Ian Williamson, U.S. Marines, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice.
Marcus Coleman, U.S. Army, Associate of Applied Science in Criminal Justice. Alexander Chapman, U.S. Army, Associate of Applied Science in Criminal Justice. Yolanda Crocker, Applied Science in Criminal Justice and Criminology. Hogan Gloy, Associate of Applied Science in Criminal Justice and Criminology. Anya Pullitt, Master of Science in Psychology. Maria Gonzalez, Associate of Applied Science in Public Safety and Security. M.K. Holden, U.S. Army, Associate of Applied Science in Criminal Justice and Criminology. Joshua Hughley, Veteran, Associate of Applied Science in Criminal Justice and Criminology. Angel Jackson, Associate of Applied Science in Criminal Justice and Criminology. Jeffrey Mitchell, Associate of Applied Science in Criminal Justice and Criminology. Dennis Randolph, U.S. Army Veteran, Associate of Applied Science in Criminal Justice. Matthew Nepper, U.S. Army, Associate of Applied Science in Criminal Justice. Whitney Lowe, Associate of Applied Science in Criminal Justice and Criminology. Michaela Montague, Associate of Applied Science in Criminal Justice and Criminology. Aisha Ortiz Lara, U.S. Army Veteran, Associate of Applied Science in Criminal Justice. Jocelyn Rosado, U.S. Air Force, Associate of Applied Science in Criminal Justice and Criminology. Yasmin Santiago, Associate of Applied Science in Justice and Criminology. Katie Paul, Associate of Applied Science in Criminal Justice and Criminology. Tasi Peraza, U.S. Army, Associate of Applied Science in Criminal Justice. Kayla Royce, U.S. Army, Associate of Applied Science in Criminal Justice. Stephen Schertz, U.S. Army, Associate of Applied Science in Criminal. Richard Tudor, U.S. Army Veteran, Associate of Applied Science in Criminal Justice. Josephine Alvarado, Master of Science in Higher Education. Angelique Snyder, U.S. Army, Associate of Applied Science in Criminal Justice. Andrew Sohnlein, U.S. Army, Associate of Applied Science in Criminal Justice. Nathaniel Taylor, Associate of Applied Science in Criminal Justice and Criminology. Dylan Thayer, U.S. Navy, Associate of Applied Science in Criminal Justice. Aubrey Chavez, Master of Science in Education. Renee Daktorzik, Master of Science in Higher Education. Tati Verdier, Associate of Applied Science in Criminal Justice and Criminology. Jobar Williams, U.S. Marines, Associate of Applied Science in Criminal Justice. Lubna Elmuti, Master of Science in Higher Education. Katrina Funches, Master of Science in Instructional. Lauren Alcalino, Master of Science in Higher Education. Dorothy Assim, Master of Science in Higher Education. Caroline Austin, Master of Science in Educational Psychology. Katie Bell, Master of Science in Higher Education. Gonzalo Gutierrez, Master of Science in Higher Education. Sarah Harmon, Master of Science in Education. Stacy Beveridge, Master of Science in Educational Psychology. Catherine Blyden, Master of Science in Educational Psychology. Kiana Bradshaw, Master of Science in Higher Education. Courtney Brobst, Master of Science in Instructional Design and Technology. Kimiko James, Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Michelle Kathleen Kubiak, Master of Science in Higher Education. Levon Brown, Master of Science in Instructional Design and Technology. Vicki Brownlee, Master of Science in Educational Psychology. Samantha Brunswick, Master of Science in Educational Psychology. U.S. Army veteran, Master of Education. Whitney Olibo, Master of Science in Higher Education. Ashish Patel, Master of Science in Higher Education. Mireille Darien, Master of Arts in Teaching. Mary Flores, Master of Science in Educational Psychology. Casey Franklin, Master of Arts in Teaching. Carroll, Master of Science in Educational Psychology. Tisdale, Educational Psychology. Tiffany Watkins, Master of Science in Higher Education. Sarah Hill, Master of Science. Laura Day, Master of Science in Educational Psychology. Molly King, Master of Science in Educational Psychology. Edmund, Master of Science in Higher Education. Dwan Alston, Master of Science in Human Services. Tiara Bowen, Master of Science in Human Services. Alejandra Mascota Escutia, Master of Science in Higher Education. Heenan Riley, Master of Science in Higher Education. Alize Robertson, Master of Science in Higher Education. Miranda Somerville, Master of Science in Higher Education. Florencia Capetillo, Master of Science in Human Services. Emily DuRose, Master of Science in Human Services. Laura Spears, Master of Arts in Teaching. Camille Thompson, Master of Science in Instructional Design and Technology. Clarissa Meredith, Graduate Certificate in Instructional Design and Technology. Niquela Arthur, Master of Science in Human Services. Valerie Harris, Master of Science in Human Services. Trisha Ide, Master of Science in Human Services. Hannah Spangler, Master of Science in Higher Education. Bridget Davis, Master of Science in Human Services. Krista Deephouse, Master of Science in Human Services. Tina Marie English Watkins, Master of Science in Human Services. Gretchen Lamar, Master of Science in Human Services. Kathleen Michelle, Master of Science in Human Services. Michelle Golden, Master of Science in Human Services. Jessica Hall, Master of Science in Human Services. Joel Exantis, U.S. Army, Master of Science in Human Services. Brandy Hunt, Master of Science in Human Services. Janae Norwood, Master of Science in Human Services. Maria Morris, U.S. Marines veteran. Master of Science in Human Services. Robin Hunter, Master of Science in Human Services. Tanisha Johnson, Master of Science in Human Services. Renee Johnson, Master of Science in Human Services. Alexandria Jones, Master of Science in Human Services. Gina Roll, Master of Science in Human Services. Kiana Williams, Master of Science in Human Services. No, I was just going to. Cindy Jones, Master of Science in Human Services. Dayshell Lee Titsworth, Master of Science in Human Services. Lindsay McClintock, Master of Science in Human Services. Trinae Petaway, Master of Science in Human Services. Shakita Anderson, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Tirana Barnes, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Mariska Ray, U.S. Navy, Master of Science in Human Services. Rinalda Richardson, Master of Science in Human Services. Chelsea Ross, Master of Science in Human Services. Kels Smith, Master of Science in Human Services. Ebony Bonds, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Glenn Bressler, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Nichelle Spicer Watkins, Master of Science in Human Services. Christine Taylor, Master of Science in Human Services. James Yates Jr., Master of Science in Human Services. Alicia Carr, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Karen Collins Powell, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Madeline DeJesus, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Diana Deber, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Haley Dominguez, U.S. Army veteran, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Nick Dunn, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Jessica Edwards, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Gina Godin, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Keisha Jones, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Lakeisha Ellis, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Zenfa Williams, Master of Science in Human Services. Stacy Beasley, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Kathy Boston Moss, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Jennifer Kernatz, U.S. Army veteran, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Marcia Lewis, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Doreen DeShields, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Janelle Ewing, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Tiffany Ford, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Katie Hamilton, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Karen Mayer, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Althea Nurse, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Lynette Hinton, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Bailey Hoke, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Robin Holtzinger, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Destiny Jeanette, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Charlena Ogando, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Sierra Overly, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. April Johnson, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Ashley Laughlin, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Kayla Loister, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Timitra Martin, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Jessica Pirro, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Letitia Ross, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Stephanie McRae, U.S. Army, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Cheryl Mims, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Althea Nurse, a Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Again. Heather Ash, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Rachel Smith, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Lakinya Sowell, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Kimberly Pittman, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Cassandra Lynn Reynolds, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Nancy Rich, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Bethany Schmitz, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Lindia Thompson, U.S. Army veteran, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Faith Capulani Williamson, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Melina Anaya, U.S. Army veteran, Human Services Certificate in Child and Family Services. Janelle Braidhoff Peck, Human Services Certificate in Child and Family Services. Emerson St. Luke, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. Frederica Gibbs, Human Services Certificate in Elder Care Services. Christina Dixon, Human Services Certificate in Child and Family Services. Brittany Andrews Bonzi, Master of Science in Legal Studies. Nerilis Melendez, Human Services Certificate in Elder Care Services. Nakia Metoyer, Human Services Certificate in Elder Care Services. Larisha Owens, Human Services Certificate in Child and Family Services. Sarah Curtis, Master of Science in Legal Studies. Eric Hall, Master of Science in Legal Studies. Caitlin McLean, Master of Science in Legal Studies. Anne-Marie Full, U.S. Air Force veteran, Master of Science in Legal Studies. Dwayne Williams, Master of Science in Legal Studies. Alicia Agramante, Bachelor of Science in Legal Support and Services. Anna Baker, U.S. Navy veteran, Bachelor of Science in Legal Support and Services. Lisette Medina, Master of Science in Legal Studies. Tracy Addison, Bachelor of Science in Legal Support and Services. Joan Bradley, Bachelor of Science in Legal Support and Services. Bernadette Brown, U.S. Navy veteran, Bachelor of Science in Legal Support and Services. Angela Bullion, Bachelor of Science in Legal Support and Services. Shannon Calloway, U.S. Marines, Bachelor of Science in Legal Support and Services. Stephen Barnett, Bachelor of Science in Legal Support and Services. Dana Durego, Bachelor of Science in Legal Support and Services. Stephanie Cole Hike, Bachelor of Science in Legal Support and Services. Danielle DeLong Clem, Bachelor of Science in Legal Support and Services. Veronica Garcia, Bachelor of Science in Legal Support and Services. Rendaya Hollis, Bachelor of Science in Legal Support and Services. Kishma Foy, Bachelor of Science in Legal Support and Services. Caroline Mixon, U.S. Air Force, Bachelor of Science in Legal Support and Services. Natasha Johnson, Bachelor of Science in Legal Support and Services. Mala Kasarevich, Bachelor of Science in Legal Support and Services. Marcy Mitchell, Bachelor of Science in Legal Support and Services. Carrie Nelson, Bachelor of Science in Legal Support and Services. Tara Kelly, Bachelor of Science in Environmental Policy and Management. Ellen Myers, Bachelor of Science in Legal Support and Services. Brandy Peacock, Bachelor of Science in Legal Support and Services. Adamarie Rivera, U.S. Army, Bachelor of Science in Legal Support and Services. Rachel Rodriguez, U.S. Army veteran, Bachelor of Science in Legal Support and Services. Betsy Schrader, Bachelor of Science in Legal Support and Services. Justine Phelps, Bachelor of Science in Legal Support and Services. Jessica Pomelo, Bachelor of Science in Legal Support and Services. Brandon Titus, U.S. Army, Bachelor of Science in Environmental Policy and Management. Larry Westcomb, U.S. Army veteran, Bachelor of Legal Support and Services. Tess Garcia, Associate of Applied Science in Legal Support and Services. Quisha Godwin, Associate of Applied Science in Legal Support and Services. Erica Vaca, Bachelor of Science in Environmental Policy and Management. Sean Weaver, U.S. Army veteran, Bachelor of Science in Legal Support and Services. Megan Hickman, Associate of Applied Science in Legal Support and Services. Kiara Rodriguez, Associate of Applied Science in Legal Support and Services. Adriana Fuentes, Pathway to Paralegal, Post-Baccalaureate Certificate. Tori Levinton, Pathway to Paralegal, Post-Baccalaureate Certificate. Megan Wolf, Bachelor of Science in Legal Support and Services. Jessica Gonzalez Bravo, Associate of Applied Science in Legal Support and Services. Amy McIntyre, Pathway to Paralegal, Post-Baccalaureate Certificate. Tammy McKee, Legal Secretary Certificate. Dorlicia Lynette Stanley, Legal Secretary Certificate. Jason Brookins, U.S. Navy veteran, Master of Public Administration. Asa Page, Pathway to Paralegal, Post-Baccalaureate Certificate. Cynthia Williams, Master of Science in Human Services. McKinley Harris, U.S. Army veteran, Master of Public Administration. Ayana Hyman, Master of Public Administration. Bart Kelly, Master of Public Administration. Julie Raymond, Master of Public Administration. Linda Corliss, U.S. Navy veteran, Master of Public Administration. Mackenzie Phillips, Master of Public Administration. Aisha Rucker, Master of Public Administration. David Tyner, Master of Public Administration. Adam Beam, U.S. Marines veteran, Bachelor of Science in Fire and Emergency Management. Corey Carlisle, U.S. Army, Bachelor of Science in Liberal Studies and an Associate of Applied Science in Small Group Management. Martina Clark, U.S. Army veteran, Bachelor of Science in Liberal Studies. Tracy Sims, Master of Public Administration. Shinavia Hall, Bachelor of Science in Early Childhood Administration. Katrina Lords Coe, U.S. Navy veteran, Bachelor of Science in Early Childhood Administration. Kelly Coleman, U.S. Army veteran, Bachelor of Science in Liberal Studies. Julia Contreras, Bachelor of Science in Early Childhood Administration. Margaret Cook, Bachelor of Science in Liberal Studies. Elise Amy, Bachelor of Science in Fire Science. Johnny Ayala, U.S. Army, Bachelor of Science in Liberal Studies. Kelly Dawson, Bachelor of Science in Liberal Studies. Dwanay Dodd Hankins, Bachelor of Science in Early Childhood Administration. Serena Bethel, Bachelor of Science in Early Childhood Administration. Daniel Davenport, U.S. Army veteran, Bachelor of Science in Fire and Emergency Management. Julia Ben Tovim, U.S. Air Force, Bachelor of Science in Fire and Emergency Management. Christy Copeland, Bachelor of Science in Liberal Studies. Edick, Bachelor of Science in Early Childhood Administration. Alicia Feliciano, Bachelor of Science in Liberal Studies. Charisse Fitz, Bachelor of Science in Liberal Studies. Carissa Flores, U.S. Army, Bachelor of Science in Liberal Studies. Cheryl Daniels, Bachelor of Science in Communication. Haley Debsick, Bachelor of Science in Early Childhood Administration. D. Franklin Cherry, U.S. Army, Bachelor of Science in Liberal Studies. Grady Gogger, Bachelor of Science in Communication. Robert Garris, U.S. Army, Bachelor of Science in Liberal Studies. Edmundo Herrera, U.S. Army, Bachelor of Science in Liberal Studies. Patrice Dunstan, Bachelor of Science in Liberal Studies. Ashley Gauss, Bachelor of Science in Early Childhood Administration. Ryan Herrera, Bachelor of Science in Fire and Emergency Management. Gail Holloway, U.S. Army veteran, Bachelor of Science in Liberal Studies. Marcina Hopkins, Bachelor of Science in Early Childhood Administration. Lenitra Jackson, U.S. Army, Bachelor of Science in Liberal Studies. Gail Holloway, U.S. Army veteran, Bachelor of Science in Liberal Studies. Del Hubbard, Bachelor of Science in Early Childhood Administration. Jessica Jeffers, Bachelor of Science in Communication. Lori Kirk, Science in Early Childhood Administration. Ivana Lee, in Early Childhood Administration. Jamil, Science in Communication. Morales, Bachelor of Science in Early Childhood Administration. Brian Mold, U.S. Air Force, Bachelor of Science in Liberal Studies. Sarah McDonald, Bachelor of Science in Early Childhood Administration. Gerline Meressier, Bachelor of Science in Early Childhood Administration. Science and Early Leslie Pearson, Bachelor of Science in Early Childhood Administration. Thomas Murphy, U.S. Army, Bachelor of Science in Fire Science. Latrice Riles, Bachelor of Science in Communication. Sam Richmond, Bachelor of Science in Fire and Emergency Management. Candice Ross, U.S. Army veteran, Bachelor of Science in Early Childhood Administration. Terry Shaw, Bachelor of Science in Early Childhood Administration. Alina Shuliva, Bachelor of Science in Early Childhood Administration. Jarmeen Robinson, U.S. Army, Bachelor of Science in Liberal Studies. Christine Ross, U.S. Army, Bachelor of Science in Fire and Emergency Management. Danielle Sousa, Bachelor of Science in Early Childhood Administration. Nathan Weber, U.S. Air Force veteran, Bachelor of Science in Fire and Emergency Management. Dwayne West, U.S. Army, Bachelor of Science in Liberal Studies. Kimberly Willey, Bachelor of Science in Early Childhood Administration. Helen Matwo, Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Dorothy Smith, Bachelor of Science in Liberal Studies. Monet Wilson, Bachelor of Science in Liberal Studies. Mo Witt, Bachelor of Science in Fire and Emergency Management. Alexandria Clark, Associate of Applied Science in Early Childhood Development. Chris Johnson, Associate of Applied Science in Fire Science. Poonam Vanjani, Early Childhood Administration. Mona Wallace, U.S. Army veteran, Bachelor of Science in Liberal Studies. Christopher White, U.S. Marines veteran, Associate of Applied Science in Fire Science. Aaron Dupuy, U.S. Army, Bachelor of Science in Professional Studies. Tanisa Franks, Bachelor of Science in Professional Studies. Jackie Skank, Bachelor of Science in Early Childhood Administration. Tina Williams Clark, Bachelor of Science in Early Childhood Administration. Timothy Gilliland, Bachelor of Science in Professional Studies and Associate of Applied Science in small group management. Nadia White, Associate of Applied Science in Early Childhood Development. Kiki Ukea Upshur Jenkins, U.S. Army, Autism Spectrum Disorders, Post-Baccalaureate Certificate. David Sinclair, Bachelor of Science in Professional Studies. Dawn Martin, U.S. Marines Veteran, Bachelor of Science in Professional Studies. Michelle Healy, Bachelor of Science in Professional Studies. Daquela Arthur, Master of Science in Human Services. Marcy Mitchell, Bachelor of Science in Legal Support and Services. Serena Bethel, Bachelor of Science in Early Childhood Administration. Stephanie Cole Hike, Bachelor of Science in Legal Support and Services. Doreen DeShields, Bachelor of Science in Human Services. And Emerson Science and Human Services.
All right. I think that's been stored up for about 20 months since this COVID thing started, right? Yeah. Well, today has just been a milestone for us in the way we celebrate you, our graduates. You know, this pandemic has allowed us to test new ground for how we hold graduation ceremonies. For the last few, they've been completely virtual. And today we have it in person and virtual. And for an online institution, that probably makes a little bit of sense, right? We want to give a special shout out to our graduates who participated virtually today. Although their name was called, we still want to give them a chance to walk across the stage as well. So join me in congratulating them. Tassel turning. Candidates, please rise. Virtual graduates, put on your cap and tassel if you don't already have them on. I have the great honor of taking the formal action to confer your degrees. On the recommendation of the faculty of Purdue University Global, with the approval of the Board of Trustees and by the virtue of the authority vested in me by the state of Indiana, I confer upon each of you the certificate, associate's, bachelor's, or master's degree as you have been designated with all the rights, privileges, and obligations that pertain thereto, and of which your diploma shall forever be the testament. You may now change your tassel to the left side of your cap. Graduating class of 2021, congratulations. We already clapped, all right, we can move on here.